Welcome to Rough Realities and Revelations.
Our podcast.
I know. How it still feels weird saying that, but how are you today then?
Aye, fine. I was actually listening to our podcast, listening to one of the episodes.
Oh wait,
Yeah, yeah.
started bump up
The numbers.
listeners and they
Yeah.
go, oh,
Yeah,
another person's listening to us, and it's fabulous.
yeah. I am the one listener. You keep saying, oh, we had another view on YouTube. I'm like, yeah, that was just me.
I love it. Check it out. We can share everything stripping.
But you mentioned just passing in one point about something about a dog being over a threshold. And I feel like that's going to come up quite a lot
It is.
in most of the topics that we're doing. So I thought it might be worthwhile taking a wee mini dive into what that actually means, what it might look like if your dog is over threshold, and how that's going to affect your training and your relationship with your dog and stuff like that.
I think that's very wise of you.
Yeah.
Well done you for re-listening. I'm still don't like the sound of my own voice, even though I love to talk.
I'm actually working on a deeper voice. I've not started it yet. I've been practicing at home. Because I think you just sound like you, but I sound like a 5-year-old child.
Yeah, but you do have a higher pitch than
So I think, one of the episodes, people will join in and I'll be like, hello, welcome to... So I'm like, I've practiced a warning, put it out there. I'm working on a deeper voice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything wrong with the high voice?
No, I'm working on a deeper one. I think it's more demure,
Right.
more glamorous.
Really?
I think I need to take up smoking, right? Anyway, but threshold. Threshold.
No, I have a terribly deep voice, actually. Yeah. Yes, let's go back to thresholds on that one. No, I think it is important because I think it's something that's said a lot. So I think if people are...
What's it actually mean, though? What's it mean if your dog is over threshold? What are we talking about?
So we're talking about where the dog goes from one emotional state to another.
Right.
Is what we're talking about. So, like for example, your normal baseline behaviour / personality, if you will.
Yeah.
Where everything's easy, you can think appropriately. So at the moment, I'm at my baseline. I can think as well as I can think. Not always my strong suit. I'm pretty relaxed. My heart rate's just at normal. Yeah, I'm at my baseline, normal behaviour. But if I am going to get excited about something, so like even about this topic, I quite like talking about thresholds,
right,
and stuff like that, then I'm going to start getting a little bit giddy because I'll be like, I know about this subject, it's very important to me, and I quite like it. Then that'll be me stepping into a different emotional state. I'll be getting excited, I'll be getting more animated. I'll probably talk faster, probably start stumbling over my words and stuff as I'm trying to get everything out.
Yeah.
Equally, it can also be if you are then put in a situation where you get really nervous about,
right,
and you're really worried about things, you're stepping into like a different threshold,
right,
with that, and that's when you do start to behave differently. So most of the time, if you're either watching dog things, reading about dog things, listening to trainers, whatever, when they start using phrases like over threshold, that usually means the dog has stepped into that emotional state of 4S, where we talk about fight, flight, freeze, and fool around.
Oh, see, the Fs are different in grooming. Somebody books in for the 3 Fs in grooming.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
It's different.
Totally different, yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about length, aren't you?
No, wait, what? If somebody books in for a bath in the 3 Fs, it's it's space, feet, and American bottom. The 3 Fs.
Oh, it'll be flips.
So Fanny. Fanny. Right. Anyway.
So it's important to clarify then which department.
Yeah. So we're talking about these other Fs. Yeah.
So when you go over threshold, it usually means your nervous system's been activated. So that little lizard part of your brain kicks in. And you're now essentially reacting and you're no longer thinking.
Yep. So tell me about the Fs again. The F.
So the F, so when you've gone into the lizard part of your brain, you have fight, which, quite frankly, is where I go. is if I get put in a situation where that lizard part of my brain is activated, my nervous system's activated, and I get worried about stuff, and I will come out all guns blazing. So, and on dogs, we would see this through barking, lunging, biting.
Biting the groomer.
Yeah, the biting the groomer, all this sort of thing, because you've gone to the other end. And they're like, oh. So, fights, like, I think most of us do know about that one. Flight, again, pretty much as it sounds, you're going to run away. You're going to try and extract yourself from that situation and just get out.
Yeah. So that's maybe when you see dogs, you hear about dogs backing out with their harness and like that. They're trying to get away from a situation that they can't handle anymore.
Yeah. You're just like, I'm gone. I'm out of here, pal.
Yeah.
It can be. Sometimes it's not like an actual runaway. It can be a walk away.
Yeah.
Like, don't want to be here. They're just off. These, again, exactly as it sounds, you're literally frozen.
Yeah.
You can't move. That one's a tricky one because it looks like acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm sure you see this in grooming couples.
100%.
People can often refer to it as learned helplessness, where the dog has learned nobody helps them out. The scary thing is over quicker if you just stand there or you just sit there and you don't move and you're quiet as a mouse and you just hope that either nobody notices you or the event passes you by. It's that one. And I think that one's a tricky one for us to acknowledge is a threshold response, is a nervous system response, because quite often it can look like compliance with dogs happy with what's going on. So in grooming, that would be literally, it sounds horrible, but in a way a dream client, because the dog's not trying to bite you, the dog's not trying to wriggle away from you. Yeah. They're letting you get on with the haircut. Did the dog enjoy that experience at all? Not in the slightest. If you were out and about with your dog, or even, this could be done at home. Say if you were out and about and a dog came up and was sniffing your dog, you'd just stand there. Yeah. And it looks like it's happy enough for the dog to sniff it. And it's not. It's just like, please don't go away. Yeah. The same could be if people are trying to say hello to your dog and maybe they're just sitting there. Again, looks like compliance, but if you look at the dog, they're probably dead in the eye, or they're like looking around everywhere in the hopes that like, how do I get out? How do I get out? Yeah. So there's freeze response. So the other one is more confusing, I feel, is this fool around. This is where the dog starts to act all goofy. Yeah. And we often interpret it as being naughty, and the dog is not listening. So this could be that.
I hear that a lot, actually, that people saying that their dogs doesn't have their listening ears on. Yeah. Oh, he's still got his listening lugs on the day.
Aye. And sometimes that can be true. Sometimes the dog's just like, I'm not up for cooperating the day. See you later. I'm just going to do my own thing. Other times it can be because the dog is finding the situation too much for them. So what they're doing is they're opting for fool around. Now, fool around could look like they start play bowing. Now, this could be towards a human, it could be towards another dog, where they start play bowing to try and diffuse the situation or zooming around. They could be jumping up at you and stuff. They could be jumping up and grabbing your clothes. They could be barking at you. And your first thought is probably, you're a wee toad. What are you doing that for? This is really annoying. But actually, the dog's struggling on an emotional level. Like their nervous system's not, it's not coping with what's happening to them. And it's a bit like, I suppose, fooling around, a good way to describe it in human terms is, if anybody's done this as a kid, I know I certainly did, if the adults in the house were arguing and the atmosphere was changing and you were like, uh-oh, I don't like how this is going to go because this has taught me, this is horrible, all the rest of it, then you might start doing things like crack a joke, trying to put the spotlight on you. So you was trying to.
I mean, I was thinking like whip out a costume and put on a West End musical, but
I know, but because it would be. Yeah. I know, you could be like, practice this new routine. watch me parents, like, see me do the thing. Or it could be that you just start mucking about. And yes, that could be for good or bad, as in your parents could then stop arguing and be like, oh, what you're doing there is really interesting. Like, they would be like, oh, this is amazing show, what a beautiful costume. All the rest of it. Or you could get annoyed with you and start shouting at you. But do you know what? You stop that situation happening.
Yeah.
And you stop that argument, and then you felt safer and stuff like that. So fooling around's a tricky one. And I think when it comes to where we'll see the frustrations from this stem, and as we continue all our conversations and stuff, and we do refer to threshold and stuff like that, I'm going to kind of mean it in a training term where you are trying to teach your dog something. If your dog has gone over threshold, so their nervous system's been activated, they've gone to a different emotional state, cognitive learning, so where they're thinking about things, piecing bits of information together, and actually learning a new behaviour, they're not going to happen. The dog does not have the brain capacity.
Yeah, you people say that all the time, like, well, your dog can't learn if they're over threshold.
Yeah, and it is true. It is, because their mind is, like, their nervous system is activated. If you think about... You
can't think straight.
No.
You're up to high dose.
Yeah.
You can't think straight.
It's like if anyone gets stressed out with taking exams, for example.
Yeah.
You can have done all the studying in the world, and you know the topic inside out, but because you're nervous about, oh my God, this is a test, I'm going to be judged, I must know the answers, I really need to pass this if I'm going to get the job I want, or whatever it might be. You go in there, and because your nervous system is activated, you can't even remember your name on the form.
I was going to say that. It can be things that you know.
Oh, it's totally know.
Well, if you're like so stressed out, you're like, stop asking me stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
No. And quite often, and I see this a lot, where students of mine have had a pretty scary, stressful situation with their dog, and they phoned me up immediately after it. They're up to high door themselves, and I'm trying to talk them through why the dog's behaved, because the dog itself has gone over threshold.
Yeah.
But they've experienced the same thing happening to them. They got so stressed out with the event, whether it was the dog started biting them on a walk, whether it's the dogs went for another dog and there was a proper tussle and the dog's never really done that before, and it was just so stressful. I am trying to explain to the person why this has happened. Well, they can't take any information in.
Yeah.
And they'll do weird character things, like they would interrupt me a lot, where I'm trying to explain to them, and then all of a sudden they're onto another topic. And I'm like, but you haven't let me answer that. Or they'll be really short with me.
Yeah.
And a bit snappy. And I've spoken to these people before, and I know that that's not it. I know that's not how they communicate with people. But because they themselves have went over threshold, totally different kettle of fish. And how they're responding to me and how they're taking on information. So from a training perspective, if your dog has gone over threshold, you really need to just stop the training session. Like, you can't then expect the dog to continue to be able to piece together bits of information. So I see this a lot with reactive dogs. So if the trigger is whatever the dog reacts to, whether it's another dog, a person, a dog or a cycle, whatever.
Yeah.
If that is like too close, or maybe there's been too many triggers, the dog's now like, I can't handle it, and they're really barking and lunging, for example, and we can't calm them down. Maybe they've kind of redirected onto their human. They may be grabbing the human's claws, grabbing the lead. Quite often, I would suggest, I do suggest getting them out, like physically take them away from that situation, get more distance in. But we'll quite often try and get the dog sniffing to try and calm them down, because when a dog's sniffing, loads of calming down hormones are released, and it does start bringing their nervous system down. So I might say things like, Chuckle, what'd you food on the floor?
Yeah.
Now, that's not teaching the dog anything.
Yeah.
But we're trying to bring the dog's nervous system down, and the dog at no point is connecting, oh, well, if I kick off, my owner will chuck a banquet of food on the ground for me. I've never met a dog that connects that. in those kind of moments. They're always like, oh, I'll just go and sniff stuff, that's fine. Because the thinking part of the brain, that is shut down at that moment in time when it's not working. And it can be the same. I often think of George with George goes over threshold very easily. Everything's very exciting to him. He doesn't have a good frustration tolerance to anything. So if he's learning something, if we're just trying to teach a basic behaviour and he's learning, and things are getting too exciting, then he'll show that. He'll start to bark at me. So if I've tried to increase the difficulty of what we're doing by building in a bigger gap between rewards, so I'm asking him to do behaviour for a bit longer. If he starts barking at me, that's a sign that his threshold, he's getting close to where his threshold is. So he's gone from his baseline and he's starting to enter towards getting too giddy. So barking can be one way the dog can start suggesting this is happening to them. Some dogs, it's to start jumping up, which actually, do you know what? All of this is George. George does the whole shebang. So it might be he would start jumping up at me. And even though he's a little pug cross, he can reach my face when he jumps. So if I start seeing that behaviour coming from him, that's indications to me I'm maybe trying to work through things too fast with him and he needs a break. Other dogs, it can be, I'm saying other dogs, it's still him. He'll start grabbing the lead. If we've done leads, poor George. I mean, he's hilarious, but yeah, the boy has a lot of problems. He'll start grabbing the leads. I'll give him his due. He doesn't grab my clothes. He'll generally go for a lead, or if I've got a toy, he'll just want to pull on it and rag it and things. Humping. He does humping.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, humping is... I always find humping's funny because the human's like, oh my God, they're doing sexy time. Like, no. But most of the time, humping is actually just a self-soothing behaviour.
Right.
So if the dog's got a little bit giddy, they are just trying to calm themselves down. So if they've got really frightened about something or got themselves so excited, and like, I have all these big feelings and I just don't know what to do with them. Oh my God. They'll start humping. It's not, most of the time it's not sexy time. And the sexy time hump is a different from they didn't have that hump.
Right.
So George would start humping. Other dogs, this one isn't George. Some dogs will literally just walk away from you. Right? They're just like, done, no interest, I don't want to participate anymore.
Yeah.
Walk away. Or they'll suddenly find a smell that there's been no smell.
Yeah, that's one I see a lot. Yeah.
Or they'll sit and scratch the ear when they've not been itchy at all. These are signs that your dog is creeping into the next threshold. And it's just information. If you want to make that training session successful, then you need to watch for those things, because once they've gone into the, like, essentially being over threshold, learning doesn't particularly take place as well.
Right.
It's a waste training session.
I'm going to throw you a wee curveball here. Something just popped in my head.
Oh my God.
So try not to make a face. But
it's impossible.
But, stress is not always a bad thing. Sometimes there's good stress.
There is good stress.
And I'm thinking about when you're watching craft, like the fly ball dogs are on, or the agility dogs are on, or something like that. And a lot of those dogs are clearly in a heightened state.
Yes.
And are over their normal baseline threshold.
Yep.
So how is that?
It's the same in terms of your nervous system is activated. But yes, you're right. I think...
Is it about how we harness that? Yeah. And how we respond to it, or what's going on there?
So when the dog... Because from a will your dog learn, they never learn as well if they're over threshold.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to be careful about why is the dog over threshold. So you're right. There's everything from they're just super excited. So doing agility myself, it's one of the things I work on with my own dogs. I want them to be cool, calm and collected before we start doing a course.
Yeah.
I don't, gone are the days where we wanted to, we used to think if a dog was highly aroused, it would be extra and better. We now realise, this is when the dog makes mistakes. This is when the dog will crash jumps or slip and fall and hurt themselves or barrel through obstacles opposed to over or under them or whatever. So a dog that is so over aroused and excited about what they're going to do, they're not thinking straight. So they're genuinely going to hurt themselves. Well, a lot of these sports nowadays, we recognise that. So we actually want the dog to be cool, calm and collected.
Yeah.
But we often have chosen breeds who get giddy very quickly to do these sports. So we do have to teach the dog how to manage those arousal levels. But yeah, you're completely right. Stress can be caused through good signs and bad.
Yeah. So when we were talking about thresholds in the chats that we're having, we're generally talking about a dog that's in a state of distress rather than a dog that's just excited and happy to be in a situation.
Sometimes I think we'll end up talking about all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. And so basically, to me, over threshold means the dog's nervous system has been activated and learning is going to be diminished. Yeah. And it could be caused by...
And also ability to just cope with general life and everything that's going on is seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if a dog is exposed to being over threshold most of the time, they are essentially living on their nerves. And if anyone is either listening, watching, or you and I come to mind, people that we might know, people who are, I always think chronically anxious people, that just bless them, everything in the world, they're just overthinkers. Yeah. Those people have a hard time. Yeah. They find it hard to retain information. They find it hard to follow instruction because their minds are going 100 miles an hour. They normally have additional health problems and stuff like that.
That impact your general health.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You're not sleeping as good, you'll have higher cortisol levels, and, stuff like that. So it's quite... Dogs who are exposed to this on the regular, no, this doesn't do them any favours. Like, as life goes on, we don't want the dog to either be... So it's like George. I spend most of my time trying to keep George calm, because he just gets himself so giddy. But he just loves life, and he just wants to knock to 60 in a blink of an eye. Yeah, and he loves that. And Finn would be exactly the same if I didn't. So what? To ensure that we're not constantly going over threshold and we're actually learning, I will do things like watch their body language during training sessions and things, try and keep them just under so that they can learn. And as they're learning, they're soaking in the information. You absolutely want to keep things up to their threshold level. So when dealing with reactive dogs, for example, yes, in the beginning, as you're teaching new behaviours to come in there and new coping mechanisms for seeing triggers and that type of thing, yes, you absolutely want to keep the dog really under threshold so that the learning can definitely take place. You have to allow the dog to be able to cope with a near threshold moment. Yeah. Or you've gone over and you need to come back down. Yeah. You can't just stay protected and that is such a small world for everybody, and it can be really demotivating for the human of that relationship. And also the dog's missing out a lot. So over time, you are moving towards it. But in the early stages of everything, you're absolutely trying to cater. Yeah,
I think that ability to bounce back from stressful situations.
Absolutely.
And we can maybe do like a whole episode on that.
Brilliant.
It's like so important. Yeah.
That is so important.
But you mentioned before about... or I asked you before about dogs not being able to learn when they're over threshold. But we were talking about cognitive learning.
Yes. For me, that's thinking learning. I don't even know if that's a technical term, but it's what I call it.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I call it because it's what you call it. I'm thinking about some of my grooming customers who have been over threshold, and they have absolutely learned what to be scared of, who to be scared of, where to be scared, and that kind of learning that's done. Would you call that emotional learning?
Yeah, I would call it.
Yeah. So that kind of emotional learning that's been done whilst that dog is over threshold, is so hard to come back from.
Yeah, because I think this is where, and this is down to the individual to experience it and to make the connections, and that's what makes it difficult. We can't control it, and so I liken this to music. So. Or just like memories in general. Something will trigger something, whether you smell something, you hear something. So I have this with music a lot.
Right.
If I hear a particular song, and really one from I would say my childhood, but I was probably a teenager, like a late teen, trying to pretend I was almost an adult. And if I hear a particular song, I tell you something, I am transported right back to what that song meant. So
songs meant a lot then, to be fair.
They did mean loads. You'd make friends, you'd record little cassettes or CDs.
Yeah, little mixtapes.
Yeah, little mixtapes. And then you'd be like, I made it for you, all our memories together. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So I could hear a particular song and be completely transported back to the party times of being in the pub with my friends, having the tips. So I'm immediately filled with happiness, feeling safe with all my friends, and it's, just a wonderful feeling. And stuff. Equally, there could be songs where that was your breakup song. You split up with the first love of your life and you thought, you'll never love anyone again. When you're just that young teenager, you're like, I'll be single forever. And that was the song you had on repeat. I dare say if you heard that now, you'd be like, you're so sad. Like that. So I think emotional learning will absolutely take place. And I think this is where we have to be careful how we behave when the dogs are over threshold and the reasons behind it. So I think for me, I will always desperately try to stay predictable, as in I will, my boundaries stay the same, my reward rate stays, or not the same, but, the rewards will be available. That trust element is there, and it's fine. But especially I think when the dogs choose something like fool around, that gets really confusing for us because it looks like the dog is being a dick.
Yeah.
And they're just mucking around. And that's when we can start shouting and being like, I told you, what are you doing that for? Stop jumping on me. All this sort of thing. And then the dog's panicking more because they're like, I was trying to make you calm down. I was wanting the situation to stop. And now you're getting angry.
Yeah.
So absolutely an emotional connection for the dog is going to trump cognitive.
Yeah.
So the dog could be quicker going at the threshold, going over threshold, because they're like, oh no, what's going to happen now? Because my human's going to shout at me or going to pull me around, and I'm not going to stop myself doing this, and it's just going to be terrible. So yeah, I think we have to be careful of that.
Definitely. I think in all of these kinds of situations, we have to remember which one of us in the relationship has the big human brain. And make sure and make sure that we're using it.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we need to learn to take a breath. It should be easier for us to acknowledge and see that things are getting a bit out of hand.
Yeah.
We need to take a breath and just stop.
Yeah. I think once you realise that, that's what it is that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Then you can stop thinking that your dog is just being a dick.
I know. Because it's one of the most frustrating things.
Yeah.
Just quite a few men do that. That's their go-to if they'll go for fool around.
Yeah.
If they're kind of going over threshold or stuff now. It's just like a night.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So that's threshold.
Thanks for clearing that up for us.
That's all right. Hopefully it did. I mean, I might clear it up for you, but don't know about that lot.
Tipped everybody else over threshold.
Yeah, exactly. Boom, boom.
Right.
Yeah, we gotta go before this morning goes.
Yeah.
Bye.